If you've watched this show before, you know that I am a super big fan of Uber and Lyft.
Sarcasm. Insert sarcasm here.
Insert sarcasm tag. Look, I love what Uber and Lyft have done to sort of kick the taxi industry in the butt, because the taxi industry sucked and it hadn't changed and it wasn't going to change and it didn't help anyone. That said, Uber and Lyft have helped us, but at a lot of other people's expenses, mostly the employees' expenses. They are constantly revising down how they pay them, when they pay them, the way they pay them. A lot of these people do a lot of work and don't get paid very much. Some of the companies, for instance, like DoorDash, they even steal the tips from people. When you tip them, never tip a delivery driver on your phone. Tip them cash in the hand, because that way they get it. If you tip them on the phone for DoorDash, for instance, DoorDash subtracts that tip amount from the amount that they pay the driver.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Big douchebaggery.
Yes. It's huge.
Wow.
I've had a lot of complaints about Uber. I think Uber is a company that started on a dishonest business model that was never going to work. Lyft is the same way. They're not quite as evil, but it's the same sort of like mythical, we're burning VC money so you can have cheap rides. Well, that's great for the people that are getting cheap rides right now. But what does it mean down the line? In other words, if you can't actually do business this way, well, what's the point? Well, the point is they have market capitalization and they have that money to burn through, and they can, and they are. California recently took a step to protect Uber and Lyft drivers by saying that they are, in fact, they're not contractors. They are, in fact, employees. This isn't a gig work. They are an employee, and Uber and Lyft, by California law, will have to treat them as employees and pay them differently and pay them more fairly. And they will come under California labor law, which is some of the most employee favorable in the United States. Uber's lawyers basically drafted a letter the day this went through and said, nah, you know what? Fuck you. Our delivery drive.
That's exactly how it was worded.
It was exactly, you know what? When you read something like that, and it basically, the legal argument was that Uber's business has nothing to do with driving. Uber's business is an app, and the drivers.
Dispatch service.
I'm sorry?
It's a dispatch service.
Yeah, they're a dispatch service. And that these people had nothing to do with their company. Their company was about dispatching drivers. So, and if that isn't like a steaming hot pile of dog poop, I don't know what is. And obviously it's going to go to court and blah, 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 blah. It's sad to me that we've gotten to the point where you can actually make that argument, like your attorneys can make that argument, and you can keep a straight face. You know what I mean? Not just go. It'd have been better if they just went, "Hey, Gavin Newsom, screw you." Of course, nobody's going to pull from California. They want that money. This is the market, but I think that's pretty shitty news.
What I found most interesting about the article and this law in general is that it seems to be targeted at Uber and Lyft, but it's really targeted at any company or any situation in which someone is claimed to be a contractor, but they really are employees. And they made some very distinct differences. An individual contractor, for example, can set their own hours, and they can accept or decline work as it's offered to them. But when you take people like roofers, which is one of the things that was called out in this article, they're told to show up on this day, and they're told to work. Mm-hmm. And if they don't show up and they don't work, they don't get paid. And you could say, well, that's like a contractor, except they're told when to be there at exactly what time and exactly where to be. So that's not really a contractor, that's an employee. But one of the big differences is when a company claims an entire workforce as a bunch of contractors, they're not obligated to set aside retirement pay or insurance or anything that goes with employee benefits.
Yeah. Paid
So
vacations.
yeah, the vacation times and all of that. And so a company literally could work a contractor to death by forcing them to work every single workday and weekends and book overtime, but not have to pay the overtime pay and not have to set aside any of those employee benefits. But the employer pockets all the profit they get from misclassifying their entire workforce.
Mhm. Yeah, when I did some Ubering, I guess I still am on the books. Um, they play fast and loose with the definition of a contractor, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you can skip as many as you want because you're a contractor. You skip too many, and they cut you out."
Mhm.
Yeah.
And and again, reading this article, I was thinking about the times I flew into O'Hare and I was trying to book a ride. Now I live on the far north side of Chicago, and
Mhm.
it's a very long drive from
Yes.
O'Hare up to where I live. And when the driver would call me, he would say, "Okay, where are we going?" And I would tell them the suburb, and they would immediately hang up and cancel the call or cancel the ride.
That's against the terms of service.
Well, okay, all the same,
Yeah.
but in a way that kind of makes them a freelancer because
Mm.
that means they can decline the
Yeah, they're supposed to be able to decline it as the call comes in. But like I said, eventually that will work against you, and then your
And they don't tell
contract
them.
is pulled.
Well, I'm sorry, Casey.
I said, and then your contract is pulled, and you said they don't tell.
yeah. So then they go from being a contractor or a freelancer to an employee. When the employer gets to set the rules, you're no longer a contractor or a freelancer. You're an employee.
Yep, and they can still have employees and still work it the exact same way they do now, except that they'll have some basic human rights involved.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody got anything else on this?
This is going to be interesting to watch to see how this turns out because, like I said, it's not just Uber, Lyft, and those things. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Because especially with Uber and Lyft, once they're declared as employees have the right to unionize,
They do.
and that's when the shit's going to hit the fan.
Yep. I didn't look too deeply into it because I was busy, but one of the Uber YouTubers that I follow, he suggested, I don't know if it, like I said, he alleges that and it may be 100% accurate. I just, like I said, didn't verify it myself yet. He alleges that Uber is now in certain areas in California is now making you work shifts. Like if you try to go online and that they feel there's too many drivers, you just can't get online, and you just keep trying until there's enough people offline that they feel they need you.
Available spots.
Yep.
So
Wow.
you can't log in until there's an available spot.
Yes.
Interesting.
You're right. That's kind of like shifts.
Yep.